there, I'm Tara from Teach Without Tears, and today's Wednesday, so that means we are talking about Reading Workshop again. We've already talked about why I think Reading Workshop is the best way to teach reading in your classroom. We've also talked about how to set up Reading Workshop in your classroom and all about the first part of every Reading Workshop lesson, which is the mini lesson. Today, we're going to start talking about what you're doing while your students are reading independently and applying the lesson that you taught in your mini lesson. And there are two things that you are going to be doing during that time. The first is conferencing with students, and the second is running strategy groups. So today we are going to focus only on conferencing, and next Wednesday we will talk about everything having to do with strategy groups. So let's get started with conferencing. First thing that you need to know about conferences is that they are one-on-one with your student. This is something that I never had the opportunity to do before I started Reading Workshop. I was running guided reading groups, I was working with word strategy groups, but I never really got to sit down one-on-one with my students and get to know them really well as readers. That is one of the biggest benefits of Reading Workshop, in my opinion, is I know my students now so much better than I ever did before, especially their reading abilities. I know what types of books they enjoy. I know exactly what they are able to do really well, and I'm able to pinpoint specific strategies that they still need to focus on and practice. And that is something that I did not have nearly as good of a handle on before I started Reading Workshop. So let's talk about conferences. Your mini lesson ends and your students go off to read independently around your classroom. That's when you want to start doing conferences. In the beginning of the year, I do a lot of reading conferences because I'm getting to know my students. Before I can start strategy groups, I need to know what they can do really well and what they still need help with, because that's what I'm going to be working with them on in those strategy groups. So my conferences help me find out all of those things. I always keep folders for my conferences. This keeps me organized, and I can know when I met with somebody last, and I know exactly what we talked about and what we're focusing on as their goal. So these folders are always with me when I'm conferencing. Generally, once I get started, I'm able to get about 4 conferences done in about our 35 to 45 minutes of independent reading time. Usually, I try and keep them under 10 minutes, and I'm able to move from one student to the next then. And by the end of the week, usually I'm able to get through each of my students when I'm only conferencing with them. So let's take a look in this folder. This is my data folder, and inside here is my conference recording form. So when I first sit down with my student, I start by asking them what they're reading, and we talk about their book choice. Why is that the book that they wanted to read? And if they're pretty far into it, I ask them a little bit about what is going on in their story. Then I have them read a little bit for me. So I jot down the date, I jot down the book that they're reading. These two things are really important because I know how much time has passed between conferences. And if I go back to them 2 weeks later and they're still reading the same book, I might have a question about that and whether they are staying focused during reading workshop time and using their time wisely. So knowing what books they're reading is really important too. That can go the other direction as well. If they're reading a book this thick and I come back to them in 2 days and they are done with it, I might have some questions there as well. Maybe they did abandon it because it was too hard, but we just have discussions about the books that they're reading. Then I have a spot for a compliment. So as they are reading a section of the book to me, I'm listening for something that they are doing really well. I always start out by talking about something that they do good because that gives them that little ego boost so that when we talk about something they can work on, it's not crushing them and they're not really, really sad because it's only something that they're not doing well. So the compliment is first, and I do jot it down just so I'm not constantly giving them the exact same compliment compliment every single time. I try to mix it up and make sure I'm giving them different compliments. And this way I have a record of what I've already said. And then the last column is for a goal. What do they want to do better? And I do sometimes leave it up to them. Sometimes as they're reading, they're noticing, I got stuck on a lot of words. So we discuss it first. If they have an idea, we'll talk about it. And sometimes they don't have any idea. They think they did everything great. So then I will help them excuse me, set the goal that they're going to work on until our next conference. I take a second and I model it for them, either using their book, or if it's something like tricky words, I'll take a long word and model how to break it apart and put it together. And then I have them practice it with me sitting there so that I can see if they're able to do it independently. Sometimes I'll leave them with a job to do. So if they were working on tricky words, I'll say, mark a tricky word that you used our strategy for, so that when I come back in conference with you again, I can see that you're applying that strategy. So that's a way that I have that keep them accountable for their goals and what we talked about in our conferences. One of the biggest problems that I personally had when I started Reading Workshop, and the thing that I hear from a lot of other teachers, is that when you're conferencing with students, you haven't read all of these books. So you're sitting down with them and you have no idea what is going on in this story. And that's very true. There's no way you can read all the books that your students are reading. But that's why I came up with my reading conference cheat sheet, because this is really helpful when you're conferencing with them and you don't know the book. Luckily, genres of books have a lot of similarities in them. So what I did is I broke it down by genre: fiction, mystery, nonfiction, biography, and I just jotted down a few questions that really have to go along with that type of book, so that in any fiction book, you can ask students, what do you know about the characters in the book so far? Because every fiction book has characters. Or what did the main character in your story learn? Usually there's some kind of learning, some kind of theme going through the books, so we can ask them that as well. And then those questions let us know how well the student is understanding. Because if they're not really reading and if they're not understanding anything, they're not going to be able to answer these questions. So even if you don't know the book, you'll be able to kind of see whether or not your student is understanding what he or she is reading. So for conferences, I try and meet with every student about once a week at the beginning of the school year. When I start meeting with strategy groups, I try to do 2 strategy groups each day and 2 conferences each day. That way, by the end of the week, I've met with every one of my students, either in a strategy group or in a conference. The way I keep track of when I meet with the students in strategy groups too is in this green folder. I just jot down SG for strategy group and what we worked on that day. And this lets me see if too much time has passed in between me seeing a student. So I use the dates on here really to keep track of making sure that I'm seeing everybody often enough. The way that I do conferences at the beginning of the year and make sure that I'm seeing everybody equally is I put all of my green reading folders into a book box. And then when I'm ready to start conferencing, I just pull out the front 4, meet with those 4 students, and then slide them in the back of the book box. That way I know I've already met with them. And the next day I can just pull the front 4 again and meet with those students. At the beginning of the year, when I'm getting to know them, I meet equally with all of my students. So I'll go through one time and then I'll go right back through again. But once I start strategy groups, then I'm going to be seeing some of my students more often than others. By that point, I'll know who my students are that need more support from me, and they might be meeting with me in strategy groups for 3 days in a row during a week to really practice a specific skill. Whereas the rest of them might just be having conferences with me. So at that time, I pull out the folders of the students that I'm meeting with in strategy groups, and I leave behind anybody else so that I know who to grab for a conference when I have some extra time for that week. If you have any questions about conferences or anything Reading Workshop related, just drop them in the comments below and I will be sure to get back to you. You can also email me at teachwithouttears@gmail.com and I will reply there as well. Make sure that you have subscribed to the channel and have notifications turned on so that you know when new videos come out. Next Wednesday, we will be talking all about strategy groups. In the description down below, I included a link to some Reading Workshop blog posts that I've written and also to some Reading Workshop materials in my Teachers Pay Teachers store. Make sure that you go and check them out. I will see you next week. Bye.